right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. I'm coming at you today to talk about the upcoming NFL season in the AFC East. And after this division was dominated for several decades by the New England Patriots, the Buffalo Bills have taken over the reins as they've been the team to beat in the AFC East in recent years. But a lot has changed this offseason in this division. I believe it's going to be a three-team race to win it all. And when I say win it all, win this division at least. And I think it's going to be a very competitive division. I talked about that briefly yesterday when I talked about the AFC North, but and obviously I think the AFC North is going to be extremely competitive. But nonetheless, the AFC East is going to be very competitive as well, as it's going to be a battle to see who wins this division. I do think, just like last year, you're going to get at least two teams from this division that are going to be postseason bound. But let's see who it's going to be. Now, you've got the Miami Dolphins, and after several years of barely missing out on making the playoffs, the Dolphins were able to finally break through last year and get to the postseason. And you think about Miami last year, a lot of injuries, a lot of key injuries, and still, when it was all said and done, they had their share of chances and then some to beat Buffalo last year in the wild card round in advance. But unfortunately, for their sake, they came up short. Now, of course, with all of those key injuries, obviously Miami wants to try to find a way to stay healthy this year because this team does have Super Bowl talent. It starts with keeping quarterback Tua Tagovailoa healthy. I mean, we've seen the concussions, take their toll on him in his brief NFL career. You think back to the injuries that he sustained playing collegiately at the University of Alabama. Now, Miami's got to find a way to keep him healthy if they're not only going to get to the postseason this year, but also do some damage when they get there. The Dolphins have to improve their running attack. And you think about it in this modern day NFL, if you will, a lot of spread offenses, bubble screens, you name it. But Miami's got to run the football better in order to protect Tua, especially with those injuries. You have two of the most explosive wide receivers in the NFL at your disposal. Now, I'm talking about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And of course, when you think about those bubble screens, both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle do not need a lot of space to go out there and make things happen, especially in the open field, as each one of them is a step away from making a big play each time that he has the football. I talked about protecting Tua. You got tackle Terran Armstead up front, and this offensive line is going to be critical as well. And then I like what Miami has on defense with Bradley Chubb. Of course, they traded for him last year from the Denver Broncos, and Jalen Phillips, because obviously in this NFL, especially in the AFC, with all of those quality quarterbacks over there, you got to find a way to consistently rush the passer and put pressure on that opposing quarterback. Of course, Miami made the trade over the offseason with the Rams to pick up cornerback Jalen Ramsey as he's back in very familiar territory. Played football at Florida State, drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars before he was traded to the Rams. And of course, he helped the Rams win a Super Bowl championship. Jalen Ramsey is recovering from an injury as we speak. Probably won't be available to begin this season, but the Dolphins are going to need a healthy Jalen Ramsey on that back end of the schedule. And of course, propelling them into the postseason, hopefully for their sake. You need all hands on deck, especially in that secondary going up, not only against the quality quarterbacks that the AFC has, but also the quality receivers as well. Now, for head coach Mike McDaniel, he does have a solid team right here, and it's going to be interesting to see how Miami plays things. I mean, there's not a lot of soft spots in the schedule for Miami this season. They open on the road next week against the Los Angeles Chargers. They're home for the Denver Broncos in week 3. They're at Buffalo in week number 4. And if you followed the Bills Dolphins rivalry last year, 3 games, the home team won each game, and all three of those games could have gone in either direction. I mean, Miami was extremely close to beating Buffalo in Buffalo twice last year. So let's see, what happens there. Week number 7, the Dolphins are at the defending NFC champions in the Philadelphia Eagles. They take on Kansas City in Frankfurt in week number 9, and that could be a little bit of a break for Miami, just from the standpoint that you don't have to go to Arrowhead and deal with that crowd there. But then after week 12, you look at it in a 3 week span, the Dolphins play the Jets twice. They're at New York in week 12. They host them in week 14. They're home for Dallas in week 16. They're at Baltimore in week 17, which should be a dandy. And then they finish up at home against Buffalo in week 18 in a contest that could decide who wins the AFC East this year. And speaking of the aforementioned Bills, they've made the playoffs in 5 out of the last 6 years, but they've simply been unable to get over that hump in January. And of course, that includes them losing in the divisional round in each of the last 2 years. Of course, last year stung a little bit more due to the fact that they were at home for that contest, but nonetheless, they fell in the snow to the Cincinnati Bengals. But obviously, with the talent that the Buffalo Bills have assembled on this roster, they are going to be judged fairly or unfairly by what they're able to do in January as they're looking to get to the promised land. Now, of course, for Buffalo, it's all about Josh Allen. You know about Josh Allen as a quarterback. And I talked about this last season, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. Buffalo's got to keep Josh Allen healthy. And I say that because they were seventh in the NFL last year, but Josh Allen cannot lead this team in rushing again like he did last year. He had 124 carries. That is going to catch up with this team sooner rather than later. You bring in former New England Patriots running back Damian Harris, and you're bringing in these running backs. You're paying them. Go out there and use them. Utilize that ability. Instead of having close to 125 carries from Josh Allen, maybe you limit that to like 50 or 75, because 124 carries means he's getting hit more than 100 more times at least, because of course Josh Allen is a big physical almost said running back, but quarterback who looks for contact, and at some point that is going to catch up with him. You got talent at the wide receiver position if you're Buffalo, again, with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. I like what they did at tight end here. You already had Dawson Knox. You go out there and draft Dalton Kincaid, and of course, I talked about this after the NFL draft. The Dallas Cowboys were basically sitting there looking to draft Dalton Kincaid out of Utah after they lost Dalton Schultz to the Houston Texans in free agency. But now you got double indemnity at the tight end position if you're Buffalo, with both Knox and Kincaid, and of course Davis and Diggs at the wide receiver position. So there's plenty of talent at the skill positions in Buffalo around Josh Allen. Bringing in former Tennessee Titans guard David Quisenberry to put him on his offensive line with Pro Bowl center Mitch Morse and Pro Bowl tackle Dion Dawkins. So once again, Buffalo has all of the tools necessary to go out there and make a run come January offensively. Obviously, needing to have a healthy Von Miller. He's probably going to begin this season on the pup list. And you saw how the Buffalo defense changed last year once Von Miller was lost with that knee injury. Of course, it happened on Thanksgiving when the Bills beat the Detroit Lions. That defense was never the same. So you're hopeful to get a healthy Von Miller back. And then also, you bring in another former Rams defender that helped them win the Super Bowl in Leonard Floyd. And of course, like I said before, you can never have enough pass rushers. And then, of course, Leonard Floyd to me is a perfect complement to offset Von Miller, because when healthy, even at this point of his career, Von Miller is still a guy that commands a double team. So, of course, if you're going to double Von Miller when he's healthy, that's going to open things up for a guy like Leonard Floyd. Of course, the sentimental story for the Buffalo Bills is the return of Damar Hamlin after last season. And all of us obviously are hoping that he's healthy. And then you also have talent in that secondary with the likes of Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, and of course, strong safety Jordan Poyer. So for the Bills, will they once again be a force to be reckoned with? Absolutely. I look at it, and just like it is with Miami, there's not a lot of soft spots in this schedule for Buffalo. They got to deal with the hype train next Monday night at the Meadowlands when they take on the New York Jets. They're home for Miami in week number 4. They take on Jacksonville in London in week 5. They're at Cincinnati in week 9. They host Denver in week 10. Week 11, they're home for the Jets. Right after that, they got to travel to Philly to take on the Eagles. And then you look at the stretch run, if you will, for Buffalo at Kansas City in week 14. They're home for Dallas in week 15. They're at the Chargers in week 16. And then, of course, they finish up in Miami in week number 18. And like I said before, this is a contest that could go out there and decide who wins this division. Now, the New York Jets. And of course, the Jets have had a ton of hype around them this offseason. And of course, will they be able to live up to it? Um, you look at the Jets, and it's been unfortunate for them. And it's hard to believe in the current parity driven NFL that the Jets have not made the playoffs since 2010. You've got to go back to the 2010 AFC Championship game to find the last time that the Jets were in a playoff contest. And of course, the divisional round that year was their last victory when they went to Foxborough and upset the New England Patriots. But since then, it's been a struggle for the Jets. And even in recent years, 6 out of the last 7 years have seen them finish in last place in this division. So, what did the Jets do after all of their struggles? They went out there, they threw all the caution to the wind, they pushed their chips to the middle of the table, and they made the deal with the Green Bay Packers to acquire future Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And of course, you bringing in a guy of the caliber and the cachet of Aaron Rodgers, it changes things. You're talking about an NFL MVP. He has a Super Bowl championship on his resume, and he brings with him a lot of respectability. And of course, you're trying to change the culture if you're the Jets. And you look at this, and this is the first time, in a long time that the Jets have themselves an adult in the quarterback room. And it's going to be important because I talked about this last year. You looked at this Jets defense. You looked at the skilled people that they had offensively. If they had themselves a quarterback that could get it done, things would have been different. I mean, the Jets finished last year with a record of 7-7 and 10. They were right in the mix, mid-season before things just fell apart for a variety of reasons. And of course, if you're the Jets and especially the New York fan base there, you're hopeful that Aaron Rodgers this year can be to the Jets what Tom Brady was to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. And of course, if you remember, after all of those years for Tom Brady with the Patriots, he went as a free agent. He signed with the Bucks, and some people questioned it, but of course, when it was all said and done, the Bucks won the Super Bowl, and they were a perennial championship contender in the 3 years that he was there. But nonetheless, you look at the talent that the Jets have around Aaron Rodgers on offense. And of course, he took a pay cut to go out there and make things happen. The Jets are hopeful to get themselves a healthy Brees Hall at running back coming back. He was tearing it up last year for the Jets until he got that knee injury. And of course, that was one of the things that started the downward spiral for the Jets last year was the Brees Hall injury. But you also go out there and pick up depth. After the Minnesota Vikings released Pro Bowl running back Dalvin Cook, the Jets brought him into their fold. And that's the thing. When you got a veteran quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, you got to protect him, of course. Excuse me. And it's not just about the offensive line, it's about the ability to run the football. And now the Jets have a proven commodity at that position. Of course, when you think about a guy like Aaron Rodgers, he's bringing some of his buddies with him from Green Bay. I'm talking about veteran wide receivers Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. You also picked up former Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Mecole Hardman. And of course, for Hardman, he goes from getting the football thrown to him by Patrick Mahomes to Aaron Rodgers. So that's not really, a fall off, if you will. And then for wide receiver Garrett Wilson, is he going to be able to build off of a strong rookie campaign? We got to wait and see. Talent at the tight end position with the likes of CJ Ozoma and Tyler Conklin. But then, of course, with all of that talent at the skill positions, the Jets still got to protect Aaron Rodgers. They're hopeful for a healthy Mekhi Becton. You got a veteran like Dwayne Brown on this offensive line, and then veterans like guard Elijah Vera Tucker, as well as Laken Tomlinson. And then the defense. The Jets had themselves a playoff defense last year. The offense was an issue. And you think about Jets head coach Robert Saleh. He knows how to coach up a team defensively. And then on top of that, he has the talent there to back it up. You look at this front for the Jets with the likes of Quentin Williams, Solomon Thomas, and one rookie to keep an eye on this season is Will McDonald IV. I think when the Jets drafted him and where they drafted him was a steal. You watched him at Iowa State, and one thing this young man could do was rush the passer. And I think he fits in to what the Jets do. And with the talent around him, and of course, a lot of people around the NFL don't know what he can do as of yet. He has an opportunity to really sneak up on some people and make some big things happen for this Jets team this year. Also, veteran middle linebacker CJ Mosley. And then, of course, you look at this secondary, and Sauce Gardner is the real deal. I don't think this was any type of hyperbole or anything like that. This young man can bring it. Of course, the Jets know a thing or two about having great cover corners, and I think Sauce wants to add his name to that legacy come this season. So, just like it is for the Bills and the Dolphins, the Jets have their work cut out for them this season. And of course, people are going to say, are the Jets for real? And I'll say this about the Jets, just like I said about the New York Mets starting coming into the MLB season. And of course, a lot of Jet fans are Met fans. And of course, the Mets went out there and spent a ton of money in free agency last year, and obviously it hasn't worked out. But I said then for the Mets, and I'll say it for the Jets right now, either this is going to be very good or it's going to be very bad for Gang Green. And they've got a schedule ahead of them. And I think, next Monday night is going to be electric at the Meadowlands. It's probably the most electric that has been for a Jet game in close to 15 years for them. But, that Buffalo game is going to be big. They cannot take their foot off of the throttle, if you will, because they're at Dallas week 2. And a lot of this comes with having Aaron Rodgers because you're going to get more marquee primetime games. Week 4, you host Kansas City. Week 6, you host Philadelphia. Week 8, of course, the battle with the New York Giants. But then that back end, week 9, you're hosting the Chargers. Week 11 at Buffalo. Week 12, home for Miami. Week 15, you're at Miami. Week 17 at Cleveland. And then week number 18 at New England. And you can never, if you're the Jets, look past the Patriots because it's been a one-sided rivalry. So that could be a tough game right there for the Jets come January. And finally, speaking of those Patriots, and to me, they're really going to have their work cut out for them in this division this year. And, obviously things have changed there in Foxborough because for nearly 2 decades, the Patriots ran roughshod over this division, and they've been spoiled. The fan base has been spoiled there, if you will. But obviously over that 2 decade stretch, 6 Super Bowl championships and no losing seasons. But the Patriots face a harsh reality this year as they could be on the verge of consecutive losing seasons for the first time since 2000. But this is year number 24 for Bill Belichick as their head coach. And he's had to change things up. And will the arrival or return, if you will, of Bill O'Brien, change things for quarterback Mac Jones? And it's all about that Alabama Foxborough shuttle because, we've seen coaches go back and forth between Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. And then, of course, can't begin to tell you how many guys that have played for Nick Saban have been drafted by Bill Belichick. And if Bill Belichick doesn't draft them, they end up there somehow in free agency or via trades. But nonetheless, you're bringing back Bill O'Brien. He hasn't been with the Patriots for a while. He's been in Alabama. And of course, the hope is that he can try to improve things for quarterback Mac Jones. And, Mac Jones is a savvy quarterback, but he's not going to be a star. And with that said, it's going to be important if you're the Patriots and you're committed to Mac Jones to put the talent around him. And of course, you look at the running back position. Ramondre Stevenson is going to try to build off of that 1,000 yard campaign that he had last year. You got the tight ends and Hunter Henry and former Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki. And Bill Belichick for about 15 years now has doubled up at the tight end position. You bring in Juju Smith-Schuster, the former Steeler in chief. to a wide receiver core that includes Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker. But, no disrespect to Mac Jones, but Juju Smith Schuster is going to find out very quickly that he's not catching the ball from Patrick Mahomes anymore. You got this veteran offensive line with the likes of Trent Brown and David Andrews, and then a typical Belichick defense with so many interchangeable parts, including veteran outside linebacker Matt Judon. While a lot of people are high on rookie defensive back Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, and so am I, because this kid can play multiple positions in the secondary. He got drafted as a corner, but he can be a safety, and he could be a darn good one. And of course, when you think about Belichick, the more things that you can do, the more time that you're going to spend on the field for him. But the talent simply is not there, in my opinion, for the Patriots in comparison to the rest of this division. Not to mention, they're dealing with a tough schedule. They begin at home next week against Philly. They're home against Miami. So you got back-to-back home games to begin the year. You got to try to win at least one of those games if you're New England, have a legit shot. And there's no stopping after that. They're at the Jets in week 3. They're at Dallas in week 4. And then you look at the schedule as the season progresses. They're home for Buffalo in week 7. They're at Miami in week 8. And then after that, week 14 at Pittsburgh, week 17 at Buffalo, and then week 18 they finish up in a game at home with the Jets, which could be the Patriots trying to play spoiler. And this is a position that they have not been in for so long. But when it's all said and done, like I said, New England is fighting an uphill battle. This division is going to come down to the Jets. It's going to come down to Buffalo, and it's going to come down to Miami. And then again, just like I said yesterday with the AFC North, those divisional games are going to be so important, but also the games against the teams that you're expected to beat are going to be important as well. And I'm going to give the slightest edges in this division to Buffalo, but I think that Miami and the Jets are definitely going to be in playoff contention. I feel that in the case of the Jets, they're going to have a little hiccup here or there as they're trying to gel, but I think they're going to be a better second half team. I think Miami, once they get Jalen Ramsey back on that defense, they are very. I think Miami showed it last year that they can do some stuff in the playoffs, as they came up also short of beating Buffalo last year. And I think Buffalo, once they get Von Miller back, that is going to change the outlook of that defense. As long as they can keep Josh Allen healthy. That's going to be the thing with Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and Tua Tagovailoa. You got to keep your quarterbacks healthy in this division. Like I said, it's going to be tightly contested, but I'm going to give the slightest of slight edges to Buffalo to win the AFC East once again. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.